Yes, hi, good evening, folks. So it's 6:30, and if you permit me, let's wait for another 2 minutes before we go live and we start. And sorry, in fact, we are already live before we start. Hi, Radha, good evening. Venkatesh, Niket, good evening. Nachiket, your question is, are we starting soon? Yes, just another 2 minutes and we start. While we are waiting to start, Uh, this is going to be, let me tell you, this is going to be a highly interactive session. Please feel free to ask questions. You could interrupt me in between. I don't mind that. And I'm not here to give a lecture or to teach you something. I'm here to share my experiences, to share my knowledge with everyone. Okay, guys, so let's start. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sandeep, and I am an organization development and a people development coach, a facilitator, a mentor. I've been working in this space for the last 40 years, and I focus on helping people with bespoke change management initiatives. I help them to align their spiritual, emotional, and physical intelligences, and I help them to rewire their mind for exceptional results. Well, this is a brief about me, and in case you want to know more, you can always log into check my profile on LinkedIn. It's very much in detail over there. When the creator team contacted me and asked me to join and share my thoughts and views and my experiences with all of you, believe me, I'm very excited. And I'm really very excited to be sharing my learnings over 40 years with all of you. And the topic which we are going to talk about is organizational wellness, managing the internal ecosystem for success. In life, there are always three things. First, there's a thesis, then there's an antithesis, and then there's a synthesis. If we look at the corporate world till the 90s, it was a thesis, where the focus was totally on the bottom line, top line, the employees were totally ignored. Then came the 90s. There was a big upsurge, and the companies were told that, okay, if you don't reform, you don't become employee sensitive, you don't become society sensitive, you will have to pack up. Then the companies started focusing on the employees. And this focus on the employees was the antithesis. And today, in 2020 plus, especially after the COVID, we are getting into the mode of synthesis, where from the company, bottom line, top line, we move to the employees, and today we are moving to the organization health. Old habits die hard. So today, if you Google what is organizational wellness, 90% of the answers you will get or the information which will be thrown up is again very employee-centric. I'm not saying that it should not be employee-centric. Employees indeed are the heart, the liver, the brain, the mind, everything of the organization. Employees are one of the most important factors of the organization or the resource of the organization. But the question is, are the employees sum total of the organization and the organization is only the employees? Well, the answer is no. The organization is much larger than the employees. It's much larger. What is an organization? This is something, usually we give a very superficial Vignesh, you are saying, can you also share some tips on how to hire and identify good culture fits? Well, we'll take it up later, right? Yeah. Now, what is an organization? The way I look at an organization, it is a platform on which three sets of people come together. And who are these three sets of people? Number one is the owners who established the organization. Number two are the people who work for the owners or who work for the organization. And number three are the customers. So it's a platform where these three sets of people come together and they help each other to help themselves. No one is doing philanthropy over there. Everyone is helping each other to help themselves. Now, how do they help themselves? There are systems on their own. They got to work together. So obviously an ecosystem is to be created within the organization, and all organizations have an ecosystem. But before that, let us look at why is there a requirement to create the ecosystem. As I said, people come together. Now, they are not coming for fun. They are coming for a purpose. So the second element becomes the purpose. Now, what is going to hold these people together? It is the values. Now, look into yourself. If your values do not match with someone else, a friend of yours, how long does the friendship go? And in case it matches with someone, you tend to become closer. So it's the values. Now, since there are three sets of people and there's purpose for which they have got together, so there has to be planning. There has to be planning, because this is what the cultural fit would come in over there. Because without planning, you just can't go. Otherwise, everyone would go in different directions. And the last thing is, when you plan, there have to be internal partnerships and external partnerships. So the 5 essentials of an organization are people, purpose, values, planning, and partnerships. And the ecosystem of the organization is what? It is the structure, it is the systems, it is the culture, it's the environment, it's the values. So, putting both the things together, organizational wellness is all about managing the organization's ecosystem in such a way that the 5 essentials we talked about, people, purpose, values, planning, and partnership, work in sync to their optimal efficiency and effectiveness, so that the 3 sets of people, they help each other to the maximum, and at the same time, they also get what they have joined hands to get. Now comes the question, how do we build this corporate or this organizational wellness? I could rattle out a list which usually people do, like leadership at all levels, applied wisdom, effective communication, speed optimization, willingness to take chances, tenacity in faces of challenge, customer-centric approach, adaptability, diversity, etc., etc. But these are small nuggets. We got to put the structure together so that the structure and the ecosystem functions, and within that ecosystem, all these things come into play. Now, a simple question: what will make these three sets of people stay together? Number one, trust. They've got to trust each other. And when these three sets trust each other, automatically the culture of trust seeps into the organization. Number two, consistency. They can't keep changing their path every now and then. And number four, loyalty. They got to be loyal to each other. You'll be surprised. There's a chap called Raj Sisodia. He was with Wharton School. He did a research called Firms of Endearment. And in this thing, the Firms of Endearment, he picked up those companies where in their business strategy, love was the core essential or the central point around which they created their business strategy. And what he found that on a time period of 3 to 15 years, these companies, they outpaced the S&P 500 average by 10 to 15 times. They perform much better on the good to great index. So now love is something which creates trust. Okay, moving forward, how do you build trust, consistency, and loyalty? Well, there are three elements: coexistence, because the three got to stay together; co-creation, they should have the ability to co-create; and they should have the patience to co-grow. Now, what happened in the Raj Sisodia case? The companies, they were so open-hearted and they were so considerate even to their suppliers and the various stakeholders that despite getting a higher return or a better deal from other people, the stakeholders continued to stay with these companies. And from India, we have the Tata Group and we have the Mahindra Group in the list of those 60 companies which Raj Sisodia testified and said, yes, these are the companies who are highly sensitive to the employees, who are highly sensitive towards the society, and mutuality and interdependence forms their core. Now comes the big part. How do we bring this thing into play? The first thing is vision. You see, when there is a team, there has to be a vision. Most of our companies, they start with a vision. But somewhere down the road, as they progress forward, the vision gets lost. Like a client of mine, I asked him, what's your vision? He said, my vision is to touch 1,000 crores. I said, well, that's not your vision, that's your goal. What is your vision? Now, in today's times where things are changing very fast, it's totally volatile, uncertain, ambiguous. Yes, I'll just come to this question, a very good question. Is it okay for a company to pivot its vision? Usually vision is something which is larger than the company. It talks of the destination where the company wants to go. Now let me share how a vision is drafted. Like Microsoft's vision was a computer in every desk, in every home. It is so motivating because if you have a good vision, people, they feel motivated to come to office on a Monday. They feel that they are working for a purpose. And believe me, science has established, research has established that a salary check is essential, but people really give their best when they find purpose in the work they are doing. Now let's take the vision of Macquarie. It says empowering people to innovate and invest for a better future. It's not talking of numbers. It is telling the world, it's a communication to the employees that, look, this is for what we exist. It is a communication to the customers that this is the path we are going to follow. It's a communication to the general public that, look, we are providing these services. This is our goal. This is the way we plan to add value to you. And similarly, the Macquarie, again, Macquarie is a big finance company abroad, empowering people to innovate and invest in a better future. So when the vision is clear and you communicate it effectively, people tend to get attracted to you. So the first thing for the company wellness is a vision, because vision is like a roadmap. You are driving and there's a roadmap, so everyone knows this is the road and these are the stations which will fall in between. Now, having created the vision, now the question was, pivot on the vision. Yes, sometimes it becomes necessary to pivot on the vision, but if you pivot totally in a different direction, then it does not work. You could modify. And usually what the companies do is, then they form another company with a different vision, and the second company dovetails in the first vision. Because just imagine, Nichiket, that I am saying I am going to provide coaching, right? For example, now people are looking to me as a coach, and tomorrow I say, no, I'm not going to provide coaching. I am going to sell coaching books. Now, it'll send a very mixed signal to my customers, to people, to my employees. So, yes, you can definitely pivot, but at the same time, you've got to be careful while doing that. But there's no harm in modifying it, in making it sharper, in making it more penetrative. Okay, once having established the vision, now there are a lot of ways you do it, so I'm not getting into the nuts and bolts today. Second is the mission. So let's put it this way, the vision is the destination you want to reach. The second question comes, how will you reach the destination? So here comes all the planning, the structuring, the hierarchies, the or the information flow system, energy flow system, structures, the culture part, everything comes over here. People sit down, they plan. And the best planning is always done on the basis of what you have, not on the basis of what you don't have. Every organization, every individual, goes through certain periods of time where he or she feels he or she is the chosen one and nothing good happens in their life. And God has got everything against them. And some would say, okay, I'm going to give up life. I'm going to become a monk, or I'll become a nun or something or the other. And the extreme cases, they would say, okay, I'm going to jump in the well, or I'm going to just drown myself in the sea. But the fact is, they never do this thing. They just never do this thing. Why? Because there's something called the positive core which does not allow them to do it. Similarly, in the case of companies, they might be down in the dumps, they might be making losses, all type of problems are there. But invariably, if the management is intelligent, and what is an intelligent management? Like in Peter Drucker's words, and the job of a manager or leaders, or the task of the leaders, is to align the strengths of the system in such a way that the system's weaknesses become irrelevant. So an intelligent management, identifies the strengths of the organization, identifies the strengths of his people, identifies that positive core, and develops around it in such a way that the drawbacks or the weaknesses become irrelevant. And science also says this thing. When you have past successes to fall upon, you are more productive, you are more hopeful, you are more motivated, your confidence levels are high, and you achieve much more. And where you try to achieve something which you don't have, then obviously it's more struggling, it's more challenging, you are not that motivated. So yes, the companies build on what they already have. And this theory is called the theory of appreciative inquiry. Now look, in one of my clients' case, I was helping them with their vision thing, and the job was that they wanted to grow 6x. It was a 500 crores company, and they said, okay, we want to touch 30,000 crores. Sorry, 3,000 crores in 5 years. Now this is a big jump for that company. So the people were very depressed, the energy levels were low. But when we applied this appreciative inquiry policy, that what is that thing which has always made you rise in life, your career, and what is that thing which has made the company rise or grow despite all the drawbacks? And once they identified it, and then they build their forward path around it, the energy levels just peaked in 15 days' time. So on the mission part, yes, the culture is very important. Now, what types of cultures is today's workforce is looking for? Because let's also not forget one thing. In the 20th century, it was all about control and command. Machine was the main primary driver. There were SOPs in place. Today, it's all about knowledge. It's all about intelligence. It's all about ideas. Today is the time of collaborate and create. Today, machines are no more the prime movers. It is the human beings, the employees are the prime movers. And human beings, we work best when we are given autonomy, we are given freedom. We are not threatened. So, a corporate wellness to survive in today's traumatic times, I'm using the word traumatic, actually it is VUCA times, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous times, right? People are looking for leaders who facilitate their growth. People are looking for non-threatening communication within the organization. People are looking for collaborative attitudes across the ranks. So these are the factors which go into creating the mission. Now, what is the, okay, now taking the analogy of that destination thing, you have decided you're going to drive down to your destination. You have also purchased a car or hired a car. To make the car run, you've got to put fuel, petrol into the car. Values are the fuel which drive human behavior, which drive human thinking. So next point comes, what values are required that we fulfill this mission so that we can reach our destination? Values. So values become highly important because values also bind people together. Now, and the next thing is the competencies. How do you actualize the competencies? So these three, so obviously, now the competencies again is a big, I'll say a large matrix is prepared by organizations because there are different levels, there are different verticals. For one vertical, say the sales department, the competencies required would be very different. Then the competencies required by the administration, then from the accounts, then from the finance, then from the production. And what are competencies Actually, they are knowledge combined with skills, combined with ability, combined with behavior. Now, in this scenario, the question of Nishiket, right? Okay, now before that, let me answer Venkatesh thing. Could you give some examples of what a mission statement looks like? Venkatesh, mission statements are huge statements. You can say they're the 5-year plans of the organization, right? So much goes into that mission, into the planning, because there are values, there's culture, there's systems, there's promotion policies, there are employee welfare schemes, there's leadership training. So trying to, put them in a simple statement is an extremely difficult task, and it could also be misleading. So at a personal level, I believe have your vision statement clearly defined. Don't bother about the mission statement. Well, but a lot of organizations, they keep confusing, and they use their mission statements as their vision statements and their vision statements as their mission statements. But there is a distinct clearance. And my honest opinion is that we should not try to capture the mission into statements in a few words or a few sentences, because the mission is like the country's 5-year plan. Now, I was coming to Nichiket's question, pivoting. Sorry, someone had asked, there was also a question regarding the cultural fit, right? It was Nachiket, it was, I think, you. Yes, so the cultural fit, when your competency matrix is established. Yeah, Vignesh, sorry. Guys, excuse me for taking wrong names. Yeah. So Vignesh, once the competency matrix is put together, then good companies, what they're doing is they are having a checklist and attributes, and the interviews today are becoming qualitative and quantitative. And during their probation period, they also get a 360-degree done of the employee. Because the employee might say anything, but it also depends whatever the behavior of the employee is, how is the employee being perceived? How is the employee perceived by? So finding a cultural fit, it's got 12 values or 13 values, something like that. It's got a number of values, right? And when they hire someone, the person goes through 6 interviews, and each interviewer is given 3 values to test the person upon. And whatever examples the person is supposed to give have to be centered around the values. This is the way Amazon, does a cultural fit. 6 people interviewing you, each giving 3 values. The HR has already informed you that you will be grilled on these so many values, 18 values or whatever they are, right? And you will be asked real life questions, so please come prepared to answer them in a way you can prove that these values are in you. Okay, now Radha says, are there different strategies to establish trust between different groups? Radha, trust is a singular factor. Okay, trust is a singular factor. And you could have different, like to reach a particular point, you could take different roads, right? So you could have different strategies because there are a certain number of people who react good to action. There are a certain number of people who react good to knowledge. And there are a certain number of people who react good to compassion. So if you know the nature of the person, then probably you could develop a strategy around action, compassion, and knowledge. And since, when you're hiring someone, or even if the person has been in the organization for some time, and since all of us, keep floating between the three, so my suggestion has always been, and what I have always tried to do, is to have a composite policy, which has all the three components, a tool which has all the three components, and then be very mindful of to what and how the person is reacting. And then you can pick up which is the type of the person and take the person forward. But believe me, trust is trust. Okay. Good culture fit is a strategy. Is it okay for a company to pivot? Could you give me some examples of what a mission statement is? Not a problem. Clarifying it. Okay. So guys, this was by and large a small, yes, sorry. One thing more. Now we have these things in place. Now what will convert it into a long-lasting thing? Remember the word FACES, FACES. And again, this is not only for the organization, this is also for your life. FACES means flexible. If the organization is not flexible, if the internal environment is not flexible, if they are not open to new thoughts, they're not open to new ideas, people don't listen to each other, right? If the culture of flexibility is not there, you can be rest assured that the organization will not go anywhere. A stands for adaptability. Nokia was a brilliant company. Similarly, Kodak was a brilliant company. Kodak is no more to be seen today. Nokia is down the dumps. Why? They did not adapt to the changing times. Nokia was not into smartphones. The smartphones started coming. They thought that their own basic model will keep on running. So adaptability is all about adapting to the changing environment. And to accept the changing environment and adapt to it, you need to be flexible. C stands for consistency. We talked of earlier. If you're not consistent, you're not clear, your messaging is wrong, people will be confused. E stands for energized. Energy. Unless you put energy into whatever you are doing, you will not achieve the result. Your heart and soul has to go into it. This means you got to be energized. Look for yourself, if there are two friends and you have an option to go out with one of them, one comes and says, come on, man, let's go. Yeah, I'm not feeling too well, but since you say, let's go out. And the other one comes and says, hey, come on, let's go, we'll have party. Whom would you choose? You don't have to answer me, but answer yourself. Whom would you choose? The one with higher energy. And S stands for stability. You cannot keep changing your track. You got to be stable in your thoughts. You've got to be stable in your actions. You've got to get continuity into it. You just can't keep jumping from one project to the other, from one relationship to the other, from one product to the other. You've got to be stable. So with these FACES, FACES, well, I've taken you through how the organizational wellness is developed, the plan to create the organizational wellness is developed, It was more like a stadium view, but then I thought, okay, let me give a stadium view in case any one of you wants to know more. You can always contact me. My numbers are very much there. My contact details are very much there. And I'll also share my number with you. You can send me a message, that is, and if you want, you can note it down, 98107-30653. You can send me a WhatsApp message and we can connect and I can help you to understand better. So thank you guys. I'm open to questions if anyone else has got a question. So, okay, we have a few people. So what is one thing you're taking home? Come on, guys. Now, Vignesh, Priya, and the other people, why don't you just type in one thing which you are taking home today? Okay, Vignesh likes the FACES framework. Venkatesh says, I think having a clear vision is something I need to look into more. And Venkatesh, believe me, it's not only for the organizations. You need to have a clear vision for your life also. Half the time we are not successful in our life because we don't know where we want to go. And we go in the direction where people push us. So having a clear vision and a mission. Priya says, I think trust is missing on our team. That's the big takeaway for me on how I can build trust. Priya, one very simple way to build trust or compassion or anything is put yourself in the other person's shoes. Okay? And behave the way you would expect the other person to behave with you. Number two, if you start, so we got a habit of pointing fingers at the other person. And if we stop that, you see, a lot of trust comes in, because a number of times when people talk to us and they say, well, you did this thing, right? You tend to recoil, you tend to take a back seat. You tend to shut yourself off. So obviously that's the place where you break the trust. And this happens very often in relationships. And again, business is also nothing else but a game of relationships. So, okay, guys. So thank you very much. So I'll close it now. And next, say after a week, next Wednesday, right? Again, I'll be there at 6:30 and hope to see you guys there. So thank you very much.